彼の残した言葉の中にもあるんですが、いい写真を撮るための最初の条件、これはカメラを持っていることだと。彼が一番思考していたのは、多くの人にいかに写真を撮ってもらうか。
1960年代に前谷さんというオリンパスの技術者がいましてね。
カメラが当時はまだ高級品なので、前谷さんをはじめとする開発の方々が多くの人に使ってもらうにはどうしたらいいかって考えた中で、カメラ自体をもっと安く作りたい。
当時6000円で作れないかっていうふうにできたカメラです。
そして当時高かったフィルム代、現像代を少しでも負担を減らしたい。そうしたらハーフサイズのカメラを作ろう。そうすると倍撮れるのですごく経済的です。
35ミリカメラの24枚だと48枚撮れます。それが非常に画期的だということで、使われた。ペンが出た時にオリンパスを持って家族写真を撮ったりなんかする人が非常にいましたですね。
主にプロを中心として使う機材が変わってきていた。なるべくいいものを作ろうと各社していて、どうしても大きくなってしまっている。その中で前谷はやっぱりプロが本当に求めるものってそういうことなのかっていうことに疑問を感じて、その中で生まれたのが OM1 だと考えています。
結局彼がこれ集大成なんですね。やっぱりかなり命が吹き込まれたカメラではないかなっていうふうに僕は思います。
When I got into the newspaper business, it was just coming off the time when 2.25 was kind of the equipment preferred. The guy that hired me came from the speed graphic day, the 4x5. As technology progressed, all of a sudden it was accepted that 35 millimeter was great for newspaper work. It's not as physically imposing as a larger camera. The more I become invisible, the more I can become part of the scene, the more the photographic opportunities present themselves to me. The camera, it becomes a productive tool. It's there for a purpose. Maitani realized that, and that drove the original design of the OM. When you put it in your hand, everything was where you wanted it to be. The aperture's right here. My two front fingers take care of that. Other fingers fall back to the shutter speed. It's an enabler, it's a conduit, not an interference between you and what's happening.
1996年にオリンパスは最初の民生品のデジタルカメラを出したわけですけれども、フィルムであろうとデジタルであろうとないものを作るというのは全社共通で今でも一番ベーシックなところに流れているのではないかなと考えます。
デザインを検討するときにスケッチを書いて最初検討して、その次にですね 3D データを入れてからこのようなラフな削りのモデルを作ります。でこれをベースにボタンの位置が適切であるかとか、あるいはグリップ性能はこれでいいかとかっていうのを検討していくんですけれども、我々が一番に考えていることはやはり使われる方、ユーザーのことです。
There's certainly an emotional connection with your camera. As soon as you pick it up, you know, you have a feeling. It's the design, it's how it looks, and it's how it's going to support you in achieving the image that you want to capture. Size and portability and mobility in photography is a message that we've been talking about for decades. The philosophy of the Olympus cameras is being able to shoot everywhere. We had a photographer go to Antarctica, and obviously you've got crazy low temperatures there. We created technology that enables them to do that. If you were that customer, what would the end solution be that you would want? It's important to always be thinking about what do people need, what are they going to need, what's the future going to be, and to aspire to deliver that.
災害に遭われた方が取り戻したいものの最も大事なものの一つがやっぱ写真なんですね。それって単なる現像された紙ではなくて、その当時の家族の思い出がやはりそこに残っているってみんなが思うので、思い出を取り戻したいという気持ちがあると思うんです。つまり写真にはそれだけの力があると 思っています。
I've got a photograph of our son. I think he was a year old. It's got the catch light in his eyes. Wonderful moment in getting ready to tap the glass. It's not a great photograph, but it's a great moment. Wow, look at that. I remember that. Oh, look at this. You know, raising your kids, the pains and the struggle and the exhaustion and the joys and all these things that occur. What a wonderful confirmation it is of you as a human. This is who we are and who we were.
今でもそのものを作るにあたってはお客様の声というのをすごく大事にしています。舞谷が残した言葉の一つに、我々はカメラを開発提供しているんではなくて、カメラを通じて人々が幸せになることを提供しているんだという言葉があります。ないから作る、その精神というのを日々実現しようと、これこそが社会に対するオリンパスの役割だと思っています。
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube live on Wednesday. Is this coffee time with me? Although I haven't got coffee today, I have my one of my kind of favorite drinks in the last couple of months is this. I don't know if you can see this. This is the this is the Ginger Pepsi Max. I kind of fall in love with this thing, and I've been drinking that kind of almost religiously every day. Although that my wife keeps saying that it's not very healthy, but what the heck? We're in lockdown, can't go anywhere. I must well treat myself with something that makes me happy. Okay, cool, right. And before I start, of course, I will have to say some hi to people. I know some of you guys are already here. I know I typed something already. Might as well say hi personally with my voice. So good day, Calvin, Theo, Lee, Robin, and sorry, my eyes are getting a bit bad these days. So I'm trying to read it. Angie and Terry, Marsha, David, yes, hello everyone. So today is not going to be a popular live stream. You know why? Because every time I talk about educational stuff, business related, it's not going to be very popular or very catchy to a lot of people. And I noticed that across the board, and whenever a lot of people, when they do live stream, when they talk about gear, the latest stuff, they get tons of hits. You know, like similarly, when I did something similar, and I see my view count goes way high, and but every time I switch to something that's probably more educational, teaching about photography, and it will be like this. And today as well, I have a new setup for my mic, and so I'm not using my Rode Wireless Go, which is this little guys here, which I usually do. I am connecting to my condenser mic, which is right in front of me. How is that sound, everybody? Can you actually hear me okay? This is the Rode NTG, and I have it quite close to my mouth, so hopefully it will pick up my voice very clearly. But obviously I haven't done this setup in a while, and this is in my studio, so it will be a little bit echoey because I haven't done any sound deadening yet in here, so it will be a little bit echoey. So hopefully you guys can still hear me. It's a little bit warm now because my jacket is a bit too thick. Right, okay, let me just take that off. And of course, if I take off my jacket, please pay me. Right, okay. So I'm happy to be here today and to talk about something I have been requested many times that for me to talk about the business side of the photography. I talked about a lot of things about how to improve your photography skills, how to prepare mentally before you take a shot. But I rarely go through something business related. So I'm going to take this opportunity today and to talk to you guys about my business and also my journey through the entire business startup and until like where I am today, and also maybe highlighting something that may be relevant to you if you want to start your own business, and also maybe perhaps trying to make some money on the side, because that's how I started anyway. So there's a lot of things to go through. I do have a lot of questions here, and that I kind of jot down from some of the comments that the people left me way back through the last 3 years in my YouTubes, and also some of the people have been asking me recently. So there are a lot to soak in today. I'll try not to make this very long, so let's hope this is going to be concise and also a little bit more to the point. If you have any question, please ask away. I will try to answer every single one of the questions that you have. Right? Okay. Shall we get started? And okay, let's. Oh, I've got a few more people here now. Let's say hi to people as well. Casper, hello, and Victor and Nat as well. Rick Bear and Ricky as well, and yeah, James Wong. Yeah, cool. Almost missed my stream. Willie Billy's lifestyle. Ooh, okay. Excellent stuff. So I think someone did say that it's a little bit an echoey, and the Rick Bear did say that, so I need to put on the echo deadening jacket back on. Yeah. If I put my mic closer, hopefully it will be a little bit clearer. So you see the mic here right in front of me here. Is it a little bit better? I think this is my sexy voice here now because I'm really close to my mic. Ooh. Okay. Ooh, I'm definitely a bit hot now because I actually closed all the windows and doors, and because it's actually quite cold outside. That's why I had my jacket on. I had no heating on earlier, so I just had my fan blast the hot heat in here, and now it's too hot. So that's why I'm sweating like mad. Okay. So first of all, let's introduce myself. If you are new here, my name is Jimmy Cheng. I'm a professional photographer and recently became a filmmaker since about 3 years ago. So I run a photography business for the last 15 years, and I've been photographing weddings and portraits, and obviously I got some commercial documentary projects here and there for the last 5 years. So I've done a lot to do with cameras and any sort of cameras, and because I started using Canon, which is a full frame system, until now. Recently, I became a micro four third camera shooter, which it led me into becoming an Olympus ambassador last year. So it's quite a journey. It's quite exciting as well. But there are a lot of ups and downs. This is exactly what I want to go through today, because a lot of people, if they're not in the business position, or if they only realize the glamour side of the business, they never really realize us photographers and especially in the professional arena struggles a lot over the road is not smooth. I can guarantee that, but that's okay, because it's just like any business startups, and we all go through the same thing. So let's start, and so I'm going to take you through the time tunnel again, since I compared to last week. So we're going to go back to where how I started in the first place. Okay, so I started photography. Would be about, I would say, about 22 years ago now. And if you think back, gosh, man, that makes me sound old. And so 22, 23 years ago, that's when I kind of starting to get a little bit serious about photography. Before that, I had a camera. My mum gave me one. It's a 35mm point and shoot. Nothing special. It's just for me to snap pictures when I'm traveling. But when I got to university, I got inspired by my uni friends at the time, where they all had SLRs, big lenses, and not pro lenses, but to me it was big, because all I had was the point and shoot. So whatever they had would be bigger than me, and so bigger than my camera. So they all had SLRs and some lenses. So we went on a road trip around the UK. So we saw everything, and we took a lot of photos, including myself, even though I only had a point and shoot. So I took lots of photos. But when I came back, I was simply stunned, or more like pleasantly surprised about what they capture, and how pleasant it looked, through a bigger camera. And at the time, I didn't know anything about photography, but I thought bigger camera would get me better pictures. That's the first thing I'm going to talk about in a minute. So I saved up a whole year of my lunch money to get my first SLR, and then that was the beginning of everything, and that opens the door for me into photography. It was my very first SLR. It was a Canon. It was a Canon 50E. It was as a very basic, mid-level, I would say mid-level SLR with a kit lens, and I shot with that system, that kit lens and the body for about 3 years, like solid. Once I got into something, I would be really focused on something, even though I was studying at the time. But when I have time, when I have money, I'll buy a couple of rolls of films, put in the camera, I'll take something. And but that's the good way of practicing, in a way, that you just have to keep shooting, right? That's the more you shoot, the better you get. So that that's before anything digital. We don't have the luxury that we have these days. We just take photos and we can either like see the result instantly on the back of the screen, or if not, go back home and put it in the laptop. You can see and edit everything. You can get the final output in a matter of minutes. Back in the days, like, nah, you have to finish the roll first, unless you want to waste films. Then you have to send it to a lab to do the processing. Even though they had like 1 or 2 hours processing if you go to high street photo labs, but you still have to wait, yeah, and you have to pay it as well. So it was expensive and it was very lengthy, very long thing. Never enjoyable, for the wait. But at the same time, it's kind of exciting. I guess from that point on, where it just kind of, the whole thing about capturing lights becoming my what I'm looking into is what how special it is to capture something and freeze that moment and capture in print. So that's what kept me going, and I keep shooting until it eventually moved on to digital. But I didn't go straight into the digital SLR in the first, because I think when was the first DSLR came out? I think it was 2002, 2 or something like that. But it was extremely expensive. It wasn't affordable at all. So I was still shooting film, but I had a digital compact cameras. The quality was, by today's standard, is horrible. A smartphone would be outdoing it, And but I had a little digital compact camera. I took it everywhere because and I started to, put away my SLR, and only because of the convenience from digital. I take it, I see it straight away from the back of the screen. Even though back then the screen was like 1.5 inch, LCD screen in the back, so you can't really see anything, to be quite honest. You can't see the detail, but you can see the photo. So it was interesting. So I started to shoot more and more digital, and I started to blog a lot with my photos, and I still kind of doing a little bit of film and scanning and processing them and posting them on like blogs and stuff like that. So my blogs got popular. I got lots of readers. I got a lot of followers in my blogs, all to do with traveling, because I was traveling a lot after uni, and people really got sucked into my stories about each places I go to, and see the photos attaching to it. They can see the story, and from then on, I just built up my audience. And of course, when you do that, your friends and family would probably starting to see your passion and starting to see your work. And as you grow up, first thing you will notice is that people are starting to having girlfriends, boyfriends, and eventually one of them will be popping the questions and starting to this marriage thing, right? Everybody go through that stage. So I was one of the few that within my friends group, friend circle, that was actually very serious about photography. So obviously they asked me, and would you be my wedding photographer? And I said no. I had no idea what I was doing. I can take photos, but don't trust me on taking anything serious, especially your big day. Is really, really nerve-wracking. I don't want to ruin your day. What if the photo didn't turn out? And look, I still shoot films at the time, and I've been playing around with digital stuff. So I turned down the first couple of weddings, and I attended their weddings and saw other photographers working. So I kind of starting to pay more notice to how professional works, and kind of trying to gauge whether I can fit into that kind of criteria. It's okay when you are playing around with your cameras or going travel, just taking something without pressure, and then I saw this guy was sweating like mad, in the wedding. He was holding 2 SLRs and following the, my friends, walking up, going in and out the garden, whatever, everything. I thought, God, that is exhausting just by looking at that. And but when I saw the photos, eventually, and I was just, wow, that was something. Okay, cool. This is something, and because I was already very, I would say at the time when I saw those photos, my level of photography was already quite advanced, and I wouldn't call myself like really high end, but already know how to expose my photo, how to take the moment shots. I already know composition, and in a basic level at least, and so I know a lot of stuff already. But I was looking at those photos, I just shocked me. I said, wow, it's cool. It's lovely photos, romantic. You see all this effect that they can achieve without photoshopping, and that was really awesome. So that inspired me. That thinking that maybe I could do something with my camera. Maybe I can do something like this, and just as a challenge. So what I did was I went to invest in my first DSLR. So I switched from film to digital properly. So I bought the actually that was the exact same time when Canon first announced their first affordable full frame camera, which was the original Canon 5D. If you guys been in the camera world long enough, you probably all remember Canon 5D. It was the revolutionary cameras that kind of brought full frame photography into the masses, and that was cool. It wasn't cheap, but it wasn't ultra expensive like any other DSLR that I've seen before. So I bought it. I bought a couple of lenses and pro lenses as an investment. At the time, I was still working 9 to 5, having a good job, good paid job, so I can afford the camera. So I bought the camera, bought a couple of lenses, starting to shoot digital, starting to learn how to process them, and the rest is history. So you said, is that how I got into that particular genre of photography? So people do ask me, because I know that some of you guys asked me about the whether, I think it was Nat, I think you're here, right? I saw your name earlier, Nat. Nat was asking whether a photographer should be specializing themselves into one or two main areas in photography. And my short answer is yes. The reason is because there's an old Chinese saying that a person can carry lots of knives and swords, but it's no use if none of them, or if all of them are blunt. That's how the saying goes. So you really need to have at least one sword or one knife that is sharp, that you can cut through things. Right? Otherwise, the rest are just steel bars. They can't cut anything. So this is exactly my point. In photography, there are so many things there, and it's hard to pick what you want, but eventually you will know. So you have to ask yourself, what sort of thing you interested in? Forget about money. Forget about money first. Think about what you want and what you're interested in, what you're passionate in terms of what sort of photographies that you want to get into. Whether it's going to be people, whether it's going to be landscape, whether it's going to be street photography, macro products. You have to find your area, and then you focus on that. It's really difficult in today's world now to be a jack of all trades, like what Nat was saying, and because. I saw so many photographers now. They claim that they can do everything. Technically, yes, you can, because you are a photographer. If you know how to operate a camera, you can photograph anything, right? Then that's true fact. But are you good at any of them? You need to be really special. If you want to stand out, if you want to start a business, let's forget about business. If you want to be recognized as a good photographer, you need to have that speciality. Then when people notice your photography, they will say, "Oh, I know who that. Oh, I know who took those photos, because that's his style. Oh, I know. Nat is taking portraits of very beautiful women." It's like that, and so you need to be recognized. And how people recognize your work is through your photography. You can shout your name out loud to the public, but who can hear you? Ultimately, it's your work. It's your work that really capture people's imagination, capture their attention, and that's all it is. Nothing more than that. It's very simple, and you just have to show your work, be specialized in something. So when people see a photograph that you took, they recognize straight away that is your work, and as simple as that. So that is exactly why in weddings, maybe others photography genre of photography, is that you do get recommendations a lot. It's a snowball, it's all through word of mouth, less so for advertising, because when people like your photography, they will do the advertising for you. And then somehow, when people see so many of them, through the groups of friends of friends of friends, you know, they all see each other's photos. They're starting to recognize your work, your style, your type of approach to the photography, and they like your stuff. You know, and that's it. You know, that's how you roll the ball. Okay, so before I continue more, let's see if I have any more questions here. I do have some more in my book, so I'm going to answer all of them today. Hopefully, I can get time for that. And let's see. So, really, okay. I'm thinking, okay, the full-time photographer do need full-time full frame as a backup. I use Olympus for 10 years already, since the E40, 420, and E5. Wow, you've been doing that for a long time. Right, no, you don't need a full frame to be a backup. If you need a full frame for backup, then you might as well be a full frame photographer. And the reason I'm saying that is I use Micro Four Third to shoot professionally in weddings, in anything that I do these days. I was shooting Canon full frame for multiple years, and I've done a video on that talking about my history in photography. So I was a Canon professional, and my work was featured in their magazines. So what I'm doing now, you know, like I'm doing exactly the same thing with Olympus, with the Micro Four Third, and my work is still be recognized, and they don't have any differences between the quality. So I don't think, you know, the myth. I think I'm trying to debunk the myth now. When people say that full frame is better and they can do certain things and this and that, yes, but I'm only saying that is that you have to play with the advantage of what the Micro Four Third can give you. So is the full frame. They have the disadvantage as well. Don't tell me that full frame is perfect. It's like the holy grail of photography. No, full frame is just a format. To me, it's a format. There are medium format, there are large format, there are multiple formats in the world. So full frame is only one of them. And if you can make use of full frame, go ahead. That's your thing. And but for me, I've been shooting like wedding for so long now. And when I first tested the EM1 Mark II on the Olympus first loan me the system, and I took the EM1 Mark II kit with me at weddings. I started to shoot with it for, I think I shot about 3 weddings, and I kind of swap them around just to test it out. So I do some on the EM1 Mark II, and I got some on the Canon. But when I went home, put them side by side in photos, I couldn't see much difference. And in fact, I realized a lot of the things that I was struggling, yes, you heard that right, I was struggling with full frame. And that is depth of field. Like for those who shoot wedding here, I think Trevor, you shoot weddings, right? And when you shoot wedding in indoor or anywhere else in within the wedding, you realize that deeper depth of field is actually a plus, and it's actually a good thing. Especially whenever you go to a wedding, you will see groups, large groups, multiple people, multiple lines of people. You want to get them in focus. In a full frame, you will have to stop down to f8, f11 sometimes, you know, to take the photograph of everybody. That is a very painful thing to do. You have to have a lot of light. If not, you have to pump up the ISO so high that you probably want to scream it to your mother. And back then I don't have Photo Lab 4. I don't have a deep prime to denoise everything. But in short, deeper depth of field definitely help. And in Micro Four Third, I could shoot f4. And that's equivalent to f8 in full frame in terms of depth of field. So like it's phenomenal. For me, I was able to capture many more group photos in weddings than ever before and get better and sharper quality. And that's a given. I'm telling you that, and that's from my own experience from shooting with full frame for so long and then compared to Micro Four Third. And then you might say that, oh wow, like you can't get shallow depth of field then. And then you're wrong again. And that is depending on how you adapt to the system. Like people always think that full frame has shallow depth of field. Yes, only when you compare to the same focal length. Because don't forget that the Micro Four Third is a crop sensor. So when you bung in the lens there, they only crop into the area that that is within that focal length. So if you put a 50mm lens in onto the Micro Four Third, when people say equivalent to 100mm, only because the sensor is smaller, if you look at the actual the back element, the actual glass element at the back there, so the sensor only covering the middle bit there, and that's how it crops out for kind of like the equivalent 2 times. And so you're only cropping the center portion of the frame. If you shoot with the a full frame, let's say using 50mm, and then you shoot in Micro Four Thirds using the same exact lens, but just by cropping into it, sorry, the other way around. If you crop the full frame picture, only the center portion of it, match the aspect ratios and everything like that, and look into the compare it to the 50mm in full frame, you'll find the exact same depth of field, exactly the same picture. There's no difference whatsoever. So to say that is that the depth of field on Micro Four Thirds is exactly the same, but it's only because it's cropped, so it looks. Remember, it looks and appears to be deeper, and but because of that, if you want to get same angle of views, so you have to use a wider lens to achieve that. That's why we have to use a 25mm lens to make it look like a 50 in a full frame equivalent. But it's all relative. It's nothing more than that. And because it's a 25mm lens and 25mm in the full frame, it's obviously got deeper depth of field. It's not going to be as shallow as the full frame equivalent, and that is why you get kind of like a very less background blur. You know, to put it in more layman terms. So there you go. So in fact, if you look at technically, the depth of field is exactly the same. There's no difference. It's only how people perceive it. So if you want to achieve shallow depth of field, all you need to do is to readapt to the smaller format using either longer lenses, either using your distance between yourself and the subject to compensate that. And it's the same thing when the older photographers used to adapt from larger format cameras to 35mm. They went through the same thing. There is no difference whatsoever in that regards. And now you may also argue that, low light stuff is rubbish. Okay, that is true, because technically Micro Four Thirds is a smaller sensor. The photo size within the sensor itself is smaller, so it cannot capture as much light compared to the full frame system. But then again, as a photographer, you need to read the light. And that is true fact. If you don't know it, if you don't know how to operate your camera and how to read the light in the situation, you're always going to be struggling, whether you're going to be using full frame or whatever frame you're going to use yet. And because you don't want to keep on shooting at high ISO all the time anyway. So for me, in a wedding, I would say that the percentage of high ISO images is very, very small portion of it. And if I have to give a number to, I would say probably about 15%. I would say 15 to 20 maximum. That would be either be inside a hotel room for the or inside a room where the bride will be getting ready, or inside the church. Then will be at the end maybe wedding breakfast. At night time. That will be lower dim and lower light situation. But by then, you're going to have to look for different type of lights to expose to your photographs, and that will also mean that you can get away with it by using a faster lens, and that's kind of go back to the basic of photography. Just use a faster lens to compensate rather than bumping your ISO up, and that is exactly why the reason that most photographers use a ultra fast lenses. The minimum 2.8 for zoom lenses, and of course prime will be like 1.2, 1.4. That's kind of like the usual stuff that we use that we carry to the venue. That is it. So it's very basic. Kind of we have to go back to it. If you don't know it, that is always going to be challenging and very difficult for anyone trying to adapt to that sort of environment. So let's go back to see what other people are talking about it. And so how are you guys thinking? What I just said, hopefully it makes sense. Okay. Rick Bear. Digital means that people can make lots of mistakes and then quickly repeat those mistakes because it's too easy to post-process. Film forces us to plan our shoots more carefully. And that is very true. And that is, I always say that the shooting film photography will train your eyes and mind. Remember my 3 tips. I think I did the 3 tips shoot photography thing, that on my YouTube, one of the episodes, I think it was. So one of them is basically to breathe. The reason I said that, not only just to hold your camera, but to calm yourself down. A lot of photographers these days, especially digital photographers, whether they're going to be amateur or even professional, I seen them just overshooting. And I came from a film background, so I kind of have that discipline not to overshoot everything, because it's just creating more work for myself, and I don't like that. Time for me is precious. It's really precious. It's very expensive, so I try not to waste time on looking for the right photo at the end of the day. So I try not to overshoot everything. But these days, I found a lot of photographers, especially right. Forgive me if I do offend anyone, but I do find a lot of American wedding photographers are definitely overshooting, and I can see there are two reasons there. And first of all, is that they don't usually process the photos themselves. In America, they have editors, so they have professional editors who help them do the things. So what they do is they go to weddings, they photograph a whole bunch, and then they chuck the whole load of them to editors, and they would take care of it. And that's okay. But you have the luxury to do that. You can charge enough money to do that. You can obviously afford to do that. But in the UK and Europe, in general, a lot of professional photographers will process the photos themselves, and I personally enjoy that process only because I can create my own signature, my style, my colors, my tones to my photos, rather than relying on a formula, which most editors do. You know, they throw in the same presets to everything, so they all look the same. Same as Asia, they use an editing companies in China or Far East and to process all the photos. That's why they all come back the same. None of them have any characters to it. None of them has any personalities in them, only because they all process the same way. But in Europe in general, from what I found and from what I know through my colleagues, my wedding buddies, they all develop their own photos and to create their own style. It takes more time, and then but the end result is definitely more rewarding. But let's go back to the thing that I was saying, that American wedding photographer were overshooting things. The only way I said it, because I watched one video. I used to follow a couple of wedding photographers on YouTube. One of them was quite famous, and he I don't know how much he earns, but it looks like he's earning mega bucks. And in one of his videos, he was going through his workflow, and he was going through his wedding day and things like that. And there was one section that literally turned me off completely. Is that it was exactly how many photos he took for that particular wedding that he was showing me, or showing us, the audience. Right, brace for impact when you hear that number. Yeah. Okay. First of all, let me ask you. I'm going to scroll straight down to see how many of you agree with me. How many photos would you think a professional photographer would take per wedding? Just a figure, you don't have to be, be very precise. Just an average number. Doesn't matter how many people in the thing, how big the venue is. Give me a number. All I need to do is see a couple of numbers here, then I'm going to tell you exactly what I heard from that video. You will be shocked by that number. I can guarantee that. And it is shocking because I also met a couple of American photographers now residing in the UK, and they did exactly the same thing. When I went to a couple of friends' wedding, when I was the guest, so I wasn't allowed to be the photographer because they wanted me to enjoy the wedding. So they said, "Oh, I got another professional, so you can enjoy the wedding." I said, "Yeah, fine. I don't mind. I'll be happy to." So but I did kind of pay attention to this American photographer taking photographs, and all I was hearing was like, oh my god, it was like all day from the beginning to the end. All I was hearing is like, it's like a machine gun. I don't know how many photos she took at the end, but I bet it will be a lot. Right, I've got some numbers here. Let's see. Okay, that will be interesting. Okay, so Steve, you're saying 300. Terry say 300, and Michael say 250. David 2,000 to 3,000. John said 500. James 1,000. Nat say 500. Victor 160. Robin. Lots of different numbers there, but a lot of you are in the hundreds, right? So I can tell you right now, a lot of the digital reportage photographers nowadays takes about between 1,200 to 2,500 photos per wedding, and that's the average. And my weddings would vary, but depending on what's happening, because the reason the number is so high these days compared to the old days is because that you literally have to document everything right from the beginning, and you have a lot of detail shots. You are doing a lot more than just portraits, and so depending on what sort of clientele you have as well. If you're shooting Indian weddings, for instance, Asian weddings, Chinese wedding, you'll be taking even more because there's just so much stuff going on. So the number is affected by the number of elements within the wedding. So it varies a lot, but on average, I would say between 1,200 to 2,500. And this is how many photos they actually take on the day, not how many photos they're giving to the clients. That's after cullings, after processing, after editing and everything. So that's another question I'm going to answer later. So this is the number. Now, this guy on YouTube, super popular, super big wedding photographer in the States, he takes on average, because he said it on the screen, so he said on average, he takes, it still shocked me these days, 15,000 photos per wedding. Is, oh my god, 15,000 per wedding. You kill a camera every 9 months. I'm telling you. A DSLR has a shutter would have a shutter life of about what 250,000 actuation. You can calculate 15,000 photos. So how long would the shutter last before it dies? Not many if it shoots like that. He had to get a new camera every 9 months in that case. It's crazy. It's really, really crazy. And 15,000 is just a number that always stuck in my head. And but the thing is, I thought it was just a one-off, and it may be just that guy. But then again, when I told you about my friend's wedding, that American photographer, from what I heard, this continuous shooting throughout the entire day, I wouldn't be surprised if she get anything less than 8,000, because the way she literally shot everything with continuous and fast burst rate. Everything burst just like a proper World War III thing, just like holding a machine gun. Just do everything. You almost can shoot a movie with it, to be honest. But that's the numbers, and from then on, I kind of realized that a lot of American photographers actually do the same thing, and they simply just chuck those images out to editors to finish the job for them. So their job is really just to turn up at weddings and shoot the hell out of everything, and then to chuck it to someone else to do the hard work. Right? Okay. This is not my photography. This is not really my thing. But obviously, they have their niche. They have the way of working. It's not saying that they're right or wrong. There's no such a thing as right or wrong in business. But it just shocked me to the point that I just find it a little bit weird that they have to shoot that many for a wedding. And the most I've ever shot in a wedding is 3,000. That's kind of my maximum. Anything over will be definitely an overkill. So that is something that kind of stuck in my head for a long time. But 15,000 is something. What do you guys think? And that is something. But I feel sorry. I feel sorry for those editors. You know why? Because like being having to edit my own photos knows that going through like even 1,000 photos is a chore. It's a nightmare. You have to spend a lot of time looking at every single one of those photos and trying to pick out the one that is nice and good. These guys will have to look through like 15,000 per wedding. If this guy chucked him like 3 weddings a month, he or she got 45,000 photos to go through. That is nightmare. That is, oh god, I feel sorry for them. Seriously, that's not the way to go. That is definitely not the way to go. But anyway, so that is by the way, like I said, that is not a joke. Yeah, that is a real story. I'm telling you there. So let's go back to see any other questions there. Okay, let's see. Okay, no problem. Oop, I clicked the wrong thing here, Nat. Sorry, wait. Victor, 2 most memorable differences between film and digital. On film, shoot, expect disaster, hope for the good image. On digital, shoot, on camera, looks good on PC is not as good on camera. Well, especially if you shoot RAW, right? If you shoot RAW, obviously it will be very, very different from the back of the camera. You know why? A lot of people may not actually know that. If you, let's say if you shoot, even if you shoot RAW in the OMD cameras, if you select a specific profile for the JPEG, even you don't use JPEG, yeah? If you select some color profiles on the cameras, what you see on the back of the screen is actually from that profile. So if you let's say use Vivid as your color profile in the camera, even though you shoot RAW and don't even select the JPEG option, but the playback is always going to be under Vivid. It will generate a JPEG thumbnail for you to actually see it. So that's something you may not actually be aware of, but it is how it is. So that's why it always looks a little bit different on the back of the camera, and when you load up the RAW file on your screen, it looks completely different, and that's the reason why. Okay. Okay, let's see then. And Rick Bear in here, a fellow photography student, got his first professional break with a commission from She magazine. After she became a recognized fashion photographer, he realized he hated working with models. Well, yeah, that's another thing, isn't it? Like, if you don't know, and then you just try everything, and sorry, just let me put away my jacket. And if you don't know a lot of stuff, you haven't tried something, and then when you got the opportunities and you hated it, and that happens, and that's life. That's part of life. It's just like studying your degree. If you study engineering, it doesn't mean that you're going to be in engineering after you graduated. It's not going to be the same. I got an engineering degree. I mean, I worked as a consultant for a few years, and I end up holding a camera for a living. So this is a very, very different things. So in photography, it's the same thing. You may learn the photography, you may learn all the crafts, all the skills, and then you come out and doing something that you completely hated. And that is not uncommon. But once you know the stuff, though, you may find something that you enjoy. That's the thing. So, another hi. Hello, Nick. And Dream. Oh, 好久不见了. Yes, I haven't spoken Cantonese or Mandarin for a while, so let's say hi. And oh yes, Lee is saying that depth of field on Micro Four Thirds is a real boon for landscape shooters like yourself, and that, like I said, all system has their own advantage and disadvantage, and really depending on whether you can capitalize the advantage from that system, and then trying to work around or work within that limit that you have in the camera system. And that is the true photographer skills, and also how you understand and fully appreciate the system. And same as, like I said, in full frame, there are certain negatives that I really hated when I was using it, and now found that it's really really good in the Micro Four Thirds. And I do realize the technical limits on the Micro Four Thirds sensors, and such as the lower light situations. But having said that, like I mentioned, if you are genuinely understanding about photography, you will have no problem shooting in the dark. Plus, we now have Photo Lab 4, right? The deep prime thing, and really is a thing. I'm going to talk about it in another video, but the deep prime really makes it I think it will be the best Micro Four Thirds editor, because especially for high ISO stuff, it's crazy, it's incredible. Okay, and quotable quote right there: you have to pump up your ISO until you want to scream at your mother. Yes. Okay, and Dream. Oh, I don't know how many of you actually understand what Dream actually just said here. Lucid, what Lucid said here. He's saying that my glasses matches my top here. Is it actually deliberate? No, it isn't deliberate. I just have a lot of yellow stuff. I actually have yellow glasses. Of course, you've seen it many times now. I have yellow hat. I have yellow jacket. I have yellow top. I have yellow underwear. Shit. I do have yellow underwear and yellow socks. I have yellow shoes too. So I may be a yellow nut. So if you want to get me gifts, get me something yellow. I always have it. Okay, and Casper, I really enjoyed the depth of field in my macro, and yeah, that's another thing, right? So you guys see, if you know what to do, what exactly you're doing, you really appreciate certain things that Micro Four Third can bring you. And when a lot of people really cussing the depth of field thing on the Micro Four Third, I think they just really don't understand full stop. They don't understand photography, and for Micro Four Third, for macro work, for instance, like you do need depth of field. You need to work with depth of field. Even with Micro Four Third, people still focus stack, but instead of focus stacking like 1,000 photo, you probably have to only focus stack 64. That is true, right? You don't have to worry about depth of field to that extent. And same as landscape, right? Most people stop down to f8, f11, and they still photo stack. And but nowadays you can shoot Micro Four Third. F8 is literally everything in focus, and unless you are super ultra critical about certain things. But most of the time you don't need to photo stack anymore in landscape works, and obviously depending on your lens. But it's really, really amazing how much Micro Four Third can actually give you full depth of field. So. Trevor, I used to second shoot for a full frame Nikon wedding photographer. He always complimented the sharpness from the Olympus images. Yeah, and I can second that comment from you, because when people don't see the actual output from Olympus or Micro Four Third, they always have this perception that it's gonna come out like a smartphone. There's no way it's gonna be matching my bigger system, and but that's a myth. Another myth that I need to debunk today is that Micro Four Third lenses are sharp, and in fact they are sharper than a lot of the full frame lenses. Right, this is coming from experience. You know why? Because I still have my full frame Leica, and you know how much Leica costs. Leica lenses are known for the legendary rendering and also sharpness. And I have a couple of them, and they are extremely expensive, and they look extremely, and I'm not joking, extremely sharp on a Leica camera. And that's a full frame. But when I adapt the same lens on the Micro Four Third, it is horrible. It's not sharp at all, not sharp at all, because those lenses were designed for the full frame sensor, which is very, very different pixel. Very, very different photo size. In terms of the actual size of the pixels, is very, very small in the Micro Four Third compared to the full frame, right? And so when you compare to that, they don't design basically in a way that a lot of those full frame lenses are designed to certain resolutions, and most of them nowadays they wouldn't design for over 30 megapixel, even though they have over like 40, 50 megapixel camera these days. But a lot of them are not designed to that sort of sharpness, to that sort of resolutions. And that means that they don't look good when you blow up. You can do a lot of sharpenings to the files, but it will never give you the pixel sharpness. But on the Micro Four Third, on the opposite, all these lenses are cater for these tiny little pixels. And that means that they are extremely precise and extremely sharp when you compare to them. So that's a physics. That's a whole thing about Micro Four Third lenses. They are sharp lenses. They are really, really good lenses. Even the kit lens on a Micro Four Third camera can easily outperform some of the pro lenses if you look into pixel levels. And that's how good Micro Four Third it really is. It shines, it resolutions and resolving details. It may not have the same dynamic range as the bigger sensors, but in terms of details, you can't argue that Micro Four Third does have those details. Okay, and surely a flash compensates the low light situations. Yes, depending on what sort of thing. I can show you a couple of images later if I have time. I do use flash every now and then to do things, but a lot of times I would like to keep the ambience, because once you pump a flash out, you will kill the ambience very easily. And that's what kind of like the very old style when people used to shoot film, because obviously film, you are most likely to shoot with ISO 800 films as 800 speed film, so you're not going to push it very far out, and then because you don't want to shoot with a 3200 film. It's very grainy, and unless it's for art, and it's very, very different things altogether. But people used to pump a lot of flash when they used to film cameras, but when digital starting to improve, they changed. Everything's starting to shoot ambient lights now, and just to keep the atmosphere, so when the clients ultimately see the images, they can feel that they were still there, because all the ambient lights, all the colors are still there, and nothing was destroyed by the flash that you pumped into the atmosphere. So that is something that you have to bear in mind. I can easily put a flash on and blast everything, and but you will kill the ambient. That's one thing. And second thing, that you will be quite distracting. You know, imagine someone who having a flash to keep flashing everywhere, and even if a guest, you're sitting down on a table and you have this flash kind of constantly going on, and it's not a nice feeling. So I'm trying to be respectful. If I need to use flash for, let's say, for certain shots, for certain group shots, I will use it. I always have my flash attached to my camera during the evening, but I'm not necessarily turn it on unless it's necessary. So I don't always use flash to that extent, if that makes sense. So I can use light, but I prefer not to use light. Okay, Rick saying that my professional specialism is extreme photography. People is trying to do this with full frame and don't get many pictures. Which is why it is important to know when to choose micro four thirds over professional work. That is exactly right, you know, and choosing the right tool for the right job is the essence of being a professional. And yeah, I wouldn't disagree if people say that, oh, I use full frame for my work, because that's your work. I'll never disagree with anything. I'm not trying to compare, because you need your full frame stuff. Or so is this fashion photographer who wants you use medium format because his clients needs big prints. Fine, that's his type of work, and he needs that tool to deliver. For me, I'm very happy using Micro Four Thirds, and then because my clients happy, they're all happy about whatever I produce for them, whether it's going to be print, albums, and digital files, everything. So like they don't need me to produce more than necessary, nor I feel or feel that I need to improve my system to satisfy what my clients' needs are, because I don't need anything more than what I can produce at the moment. So that is okay. And so it is right. Just choose the right tool for the right job. Is always the way to go. And thanks for the clear comments. I use to save my EM1X instead of full frame backup. Yep, no worry, mate. And Marsha, another point is that many in the USA have the philosophical theory that bigger is better, more is better. Really? More is better? Wow. I wonder how many photos they actually do deliver in the US. And because in the UK, that's another question I'm going to answer now. Right. A lot of people do ask me a lot of the time that how many photos do I supply them at the end of the wedding? And that includes my clients. So I always say that it's really depending on your wedding. There's no fixed numbers. I would not give, you know, that's another thing. When I first started my wedding photography services, I commit to a number. Yeah, I always say that, oh, bronze package, I will have 300 photos. And silver, I have 500. Or gold would have 900 or unlimited, whatever. You know, like some numbers. Always committed to a number. Then as time go along, I started to realize that I started to have a lot of weddings, big and small and all kinds of things. And for big weddings, I have lots of photos. So no problem of satisfying those numbers. But when I have a very small wedding, like literally just covering the reception, how can I possibly get 300 photos? I can't. There's nothing going on there. So like committing to a number is definitely not the way to go. And never ever commit to a number. And because you don't want to make up the numbers by giving them rubbish, literally rubbish. And I don't want to do that just by machine gunning everything and give you loads of repetitive shots. They are totally meaningless. So like the way I do it is that I have to educate them. I have to educate all my clients in terms of the numbers of or number of photos that they're expecting from me after the wedding. So I always say to them, look, if your wedding is full of surprises, full of stuff going on, show me your plan of the day and I can kind of guesstimate what sort of thing you should be expecting. If your wedding is just a very small wedding, and with all due respect, if there is nothing going on there, there is only limited things I can do to do it. So I can document the whole thing from start to the end. I can give you all the detailed shots. I can give you a lot of nice portraits. I can give you this and that, but you won't get that many numbers. But if your wedding is like 3,000 people, like that gonna span over 2 days and have lots of things like all packed together in a different schedule, you were gonna expect like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 photos because whatever, there's gonna be loads of stuff going on there, and obviously I charge accordingly. And so this is exactly why, exactly how I learned from mistakes. Because I remember when I used to offer those packages, and people, if they, especially the budget type, they're always going for the lower end, and also the people, even though they are okay to afford me, but because they look at the number of commitments, they will choose whatever package that suits them. And so, like I said, I went to a couple of weddings that is literally just the reception itself, and I end up only shooting about 200. That's everything, 200. So once I, select the one that I want and things like that, they end up with like 80 photos, or maybe even less. So I can't satisfy the 300 numbers that I committed to the package. So I learned from mistakes, and so from that point onward, I am not going to offer any numbers anymore. So what I would say to the clients that, you're going to expect nice photos from me. I favor quality over quantity, and don't worry about it. And you are going, I'm going to cover your wedding. Your wedding is covered. And that is it. Okay. And let's see another one here. Ned is saying that on overshooting, clients expect a ridiculous numbers of shots, and it's becoming a trend, and that's so horrible. Well, I kind of answered that already. You need to educate your client and really educate them. Show them a couple of weddings you've done before. If you have a portfolio, show them a couple of weddings, one big, one small. Ask them to flip through them. You know why? I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Ask them to flip through every single one of them. You have to obviously say to them nicely, these are my portfolio, you can have a look at them. But check every single one of the photos. Remember, say that to them. Check every single photo. All right. I'll give you a couple of seconds why I said that. So let's see if there are any other comments here. Fabian, hi. How are you from Luxembourg? Cool. So I'm still a bit behind in terms of comments. I'm going to scroll through now. Yeah, you need a backup body for sure. Oh yeah, I'm telling you, man, those people probably have about 5 different cameras. Rick Bear, of course, I'm not the main photographer. Oh, I think you're answering someone else. Okay. And David Crooks saying that probably charge 15K for wedding as well. Well, that's another thing though. I do notice that US wedding charges more than the UK, and that is a fact. That is a true fact, because I've seen a lot of my US buddies, and they I think on average their weddings are charged way higher compared to the UK. I guess a lot of the cost are down to the editor that I mentioned to you, because they do send their photos out to the editors, and they have to pay them to do the work. So that is part of it. And but regardless, how much they charge really is a lot higher compared to the UK standard, because in terms of money wise, I would say that in the US, the average wedding photography package would cost double the money as UK easily, even at the lower end. So that is the difference between UK and America. I mean, a lot of them are easily over 10K in the US, while in the UK, sorry, yeah, am I saying it right? In the US, it's easily over 10K American dollars, which works out to be about 6.5, 8 grand in the UK pounds. So UK, you won't get that. You will probably get about, and if you're lucky, you're probably about like 2.5, 3 grand. That's the kind of almost the high end, not quite high end. Obviously, high end you can get really the top stuff. You get probably over 10 as well, but that's the cream of the cream. And but on average, people are really charging these days in the lower end or mid range. And mid end is about 1,000, 1,200, 1,400. This kind of like a middle tier, and the low end would be, yeah, it could be anything. It could be £100, £200. These are the scavengers. they will kill for everything, and which is something that I do not want to get into. Okay, and Michael Kaufman, have a nice chat, have to go. Okay, no problem, mate. No problem. Rick Bear say that is he's like a surveillance security shit. Basically. Oh, Barana's here. Hello, Barana. Good evening. So here we go. Provide free wedding photo workshop teaching 20,000 shots and buy JIP stock behind the scenes. You know what? Yeah, if we can do that, if somehow like my wedding photography become like what that guy was doing in YouTube terms, and if I tell people that every one of my weddings I'm gonna take 20,000 photos, that would be good sales for Olympus, right? Or Olympus JIP. Like I can sell cameras for them. Look, if you shoot pro with your Olympus gear, you're gonna need 2 new cameras every year. That means that they're gonna satisfy all the quotas in the year. James Wong, challenge is that many are not willing to pay for quality and sometimes settle for poor quality work. Right, I'll give you a story. And that's a true story from my own experience as well. And so, like I said, I've been in this industry long enough to tell you everything. Okay. Yes, there are people who would favor or who are the budget type. So all they care about is the number. All they care about is how much you cost and how many photos they're going to get at the end of the day. And that's it. That's all they care about. They don't look at quality. They don't look at things. And they always come to you though, because your picture looks nice, right? That's how they approach you first. They saw your photo on the website or whatever, or maybe their friends, and they will approach you. So, I really like your work. I receive a ton of these emails. I love your work. I mean, I really would like you to be my day, blah, blah, blah. But I only have X amount of money. But I really want you to be my photographer because, your work is just amazing. And my response is usually like this. Thank you, dear, and I'm really happy that you like my work, and I spend a lot of time developing my skills, so it costs a lot of money for me to be where I am today. Unfortunately, I have bills to pay as well, so if you want this type of quality, this is the cost. And then and I'll leave it at that. Unfortunately, I will not be able to offer any more discounts, and if you are really struggling in budgets, maybe I can do a shorter coverage for you, but it won't be the entire wedding. End of. And usually they will come back and say, can you do any more discounts? And just depending on what they are, but most of the time for budget type of clients, I usually would say no, because I know at the end of the day you will create trouble for yourself. And that's a true fact, because if they start off with the money, but not talking about your photography, at the end of the wedding, when you deliver the photos, they are going to have something to complain as well. So I'm trying to preempt a lot of these problems right from the start. And this is another thing that I learned from the past. And when I first started photography, I got into argument with my clients and got this and that, and I don't want to go through that, but it's a horrible experience. But I went through all that. So when I'm developed now, and when I'm more known in the wedding industry, when I'm known for my clients and my people, and I just simply say no to all this nowadays. So whenever they come up to me and start telling me I only have a budget X to do this, I can only afford Y money. So wide amount of money, or I only have this. Can you do this? I will say no to all of them. Nothing. I keep my integrity and keep my professionalism. I'll say to them, if you employ me, if you use my service, you're guaranteed to have good stuff. And you've seen my portfolio. I never ever failed any of them. And so if you want this style, this quality, you will have to pay up for it. And this is how I usually approach my clients. And I'm quite rarely to receive any more budget clients these days, because I just preempt them. And people know that I don't have that sort of price range anymore. And people know that my photography will cost this much, and so they don't approach me. The budget type won't approach me anymore. Which they basically are. I had it like on a daily basis when I first started photography, because they're all looking for bargains, because they all know that I'm new. But nowadays they know that I'm around. I'm already established, and most of them will probably be hearing my name from their friends, whatever, and they've seen the photos as well. That's why they got to me. So that's why you have to know when to say no, and also keep your really keep your integrity, keep your professionalism in front of them. And if you think you cost that much of money, keep at it. You can offer some discretionary discounts if you really want to sweeten the deal. But at the end of the day, do not do silly things. I was going to say stupid, but do not do silly things. And that's not good for yourself. That's not good for your career. That's not good for your business in general, because you will be fighting against other budget photographers, which I'm telling you, they are not good for the industry, and most of them are amateurs. Most of them are just trying to look for pocket money. They're not really genuine photographers who are actually trying to make money from photography, because that is destroying the industry. I can tell you that. Okay, right. Anji, you are saying, do I shoot with electronic shutter or only mechanical shutter on weddings? That depends. That depends. Right. Ever since mirrorless come about, there's another myth, and I need to clarify. And very, very importantly, if you want to get into wedding photography using mirrorless cameras, no, I'm not just talking about Olympus, but any mirrorless cameras that can have the ability to shoot silent shutters. I mean, electronic shutter. Okay. When I first got hold of the Olympus, I knew there was an option for electronic shutter or silent shutter. So I thought, yeah, that's a cool idea to, let's say, be less disruptive at the reception when people are saying their vows and things like that. And it's okay when you're outdoor, but when you go indoor, problem starts. Right, let me tell you why. You will get bandings. I don't know how many of you actually know bandings. And if you're indoor, you have LED lights or even normal tungsten lights. Each country has different frequency for the electrical circuits, and they have a frequency of flickering, which you can't see in human eyes. But as soon as you use a camera, because you have a faster shutter speed, if the shutter speed is not in sync with the frequency of the electrical current, you will see this band coming across your photos. It will completely ruin your photos. And I can tell you that there is a function in the Olympus camera these days that's called anti-flickering or flicker detection, whatever, which basically it will scan the flickering and trying to adjust to it so that it will minimize the banding effect. So I'm pretty sure that happens to all the digital camera these days. But when you use electronic or silent shutters mode in any digital cameras, you will run into risks of having bandings in indoor photography, especially having these horrible tungsten lights, in the rooms or hotel rooms or whatever. You will have that. But outdoor, of course, because the sunlight is continuous and you will have frequencies, and that means you are okay to use continuous silent shooting in outdoor mode, which is fine. But this is only from my experience, and that is the reason why I use mechanical shutter a lot in indoor environments, and because I can't be bothered using the flicker scan, because it takes time. It will slow me down, so I just use mechanical. And another good thing about Micro Four Third is the shutter is fairly quiet, and that's another thing. Compared to full-frame DSLRs, this thing is silent, almost silent anyway, and so it's not bad at all. But most importantly, remember, I don't tend to machine gun everything. So that would make your wedding very disruptive. You keep on machine gun every single moment, like taking 20,000 photos. That's not the way to go. Sorry about that. Excuse me. So hopefully that answered the question. So I use mechanical a lot of the time, but in some occasions I'll use silent shutter. Really solely depending on where I am. If I can get away with it, like outdoor, I will use electronic shutter. But most of the time I'll use mechanical. Oh, hello, Boston Sideways. Ras. Hello, Ras. Slow Bolden. Oh, sorry about that. I can't pronounce your name, but hello. Okay, Rick Bear. Yellow underwear. Yeah, maybe I should. Okay. Only Micro Four Third great for macro. Pentax Q. Oh, Pentax Q. Oh, I love those little things. And you know what? Even today, I'm still trying to get hold of a system. It's kind of like a collector thing. And even though I don't think I will shoot with it, but I would like to. I would like to do it. I would like to have a system. Meet again. Hello. Thank you. I love Session Jimmy, bro. Thank you. John, Adrian, hello, good afternoon. I tried an Leica 90mm lens on my EM1X. Definitely not as sharp as I expected. Used a K&F adapter and put the 40 to 150 Pro at 90. I did not purchase the Leica. And yeah, it is true. I have possibly around 6, maybe 7 Leica lenses still in my collection, and a couple of them are very expensive and very good on a full frame camera. But when I put them onto the Micro Four Third, I can't use them. Not that I can't use them, but it's just not to the same quality that I was expecting from a Leica lens. So I ended up, if I shoot Micro Four Third, I just using Micro Four Third lenses and full stop. I don't use any other lenses. So now I know for a fact that if I want to adapt to the system, unless I want something artistic or something like to get the feel of a certain rendering, most of the time I would just stick with Olympus lenses or Micro Four Third native lenses. So that's kind of the best way to go, because otherwise you're not going to get the same quality. And Victor, and do you manual set on flash, or do you sometimes use the speed mode TTL? I use both. Right, TTL. Okay, when do I use TTL? I use TTL when I do the field flash. When I do field flash, let's say if I am at a reception, if I want to photograph the bride and groom coming out from after the vow, when everybody standing and chucking these confetti, yes, chucking confetti out. If I walk backward and try to capture the moment, and I would use field flash, and for that I will use TTL. That's easier for me because potentially they could be changing lights, because the couple could be covering by the people's from these the spectators' shadows, or the sun maybe at the back of them, so I'll be shooting against or shooting into the sun, and the sun suddenly come in with a cloud and cover it, so the TTL will take care of that. So for that particular instance, I'll use TTL. But at nighttime photography, when I want to do, in the evening, when in the hall, somewhere like that, and I'll use manual, because when you're indoor, you're more in control of the surrounding lighting intensity, so you're able to adjust yourself to it. So it's a lot easier if you do a manual when you're indoor. TTL is still fine, but sometimes if I want to underexpose something, not having a full blast, and I can control all that, and like all the photographers, I think we are control freaks, right? We're trying to take control of everything, including the flash. And Tim, hello there from Germany. How are you, Tim? I hope everything is okay in Germany. I heard there's a protest today. Is that the charge in Australia? Is that in Aussie numbers or in dollars or pounds? I'm not entirely sure. Okay, James 1, do I shoot alone or with a support team? That depends. I have had second shooters. I have had assistants before. I do still have a bunch of people who would like to work with me on weddings. It just depends. Depends on the scale of the weddings. A lot of the time I can cover myself easily, and because don't forget, I can bring an assistant very easily, but they cost me to do it. And especially in the UK now, by law, if you have a second shooter, you as a main photographer will have to cover the insurance, cover the professional indemnity, and everything like that. And that's another thing I haven't really touched base on, is a lot of costs. And if you have a second shooters or assistant, you will have to cover their insurance, and that is expensive if they haven't got a track record and things like that. And that would mean that ultimately you have to pass those costs to the client, and that will increase your fee dramatically. So it really depending on my clients, and if they are the affluent clients that I have, if they are having a really big venues, very nice, and a lot of people, if I need another assistant there to kind of control the surrounding and all the people, then I will charge accordingly and bring them in. But a lot of the time with my clients, if they are smaller weddings and they simply don't need or can't afford that extra service, then I'll just go by myself. So it varies. I know in Hong Kong, in Asia, they usually have a team of people there because that's how they work in Asia. Similarly, in the States, I think most of them will have a second shooter, or a lot of the time they will be husband and wife or boyfriend girlfriend team. So they always have 2 photographers out there, which is kind of similar to the UK. They have this combo as well, husband and wife and boyfriend girlfriend thing. And but for me, my wife don't shoot, so I usually go by myself, which is fine. I'm so used to doing everything myself anyway, so I don't need another person. And but I do bring in assistants sometimes, and or even my students. Some of the students want to learn from me, so they will come up to my weddings, and so I would be able to demonstrate at the same time as he or she will be helping me out a little bit here and there, and also help me take some secondary photographs as well. So it's quite good for learning experience, I guess. So it's not too bad. So yes, I can say that I do both. Okay, I got blocked nose today for some reason. Okay. And wedding photography, there are just a few classic or must not miss images, and you must capture or face a painful death. Yep. You're right there. There is always a list that you have to satisfy for your clients. And obviously, if you do it long enough, you kind of know what they are anyway by heart. You don't need to go through the list anymore. But a lot of the time that you really want to develop a memory of kind of memorizing all these little things that is kind of like a must take shots for every wedding. And otherwise, you will be killed by the bride. I can guarantee that. Even if it's not the bride, but it could be the bride's parents. I'm telling you. One thing, the bride. I keep saying the bride because the bride is everything. I'm not joking. The bride is everything. I'm trying to imprint that voice in your head, yeah? The bride is everything. Okay, and is the K&F adapter has a 2-time or MC20 or is sharper? I don't think K&F do the teleconverters. They do adapters for just adapting different mounts to the system, or they may have speed boosters, and which is a very different thing to teleconverters. So they don't do that sort of thing. But a lot of the speed boosters, they don't have the same quality of glass, and that will mean that you always have the degradation in image quality. So really have to be careful, and you really have to try it before you buy it. That will be my warning to you, because I've used a few before which completely destroy the photos. And if you have a chance to, if your area can buy and you can return, do it. Try it out before you really commit to it, because they are expensive as well, these adapters, if you use speed boosters. So they are not the right thing to do. I'm still just gonna shoot native, to be honest. Oop. I think you missed that. I only take between 4 to 6 wedding photographs. Only really important images, like exchange of rings, rather than lots of dross pics. You take 4 to 6 photographs. Wow. Okay. More no than yes currently, because I won't want to compromise. Your comments are spot on. Yep, and I think it's a discipline as well. I know it's very, very tempting for a lot of people who want to start into the photography business or starting a business in general, regardless. Because first of all, you're giving up your 9 to 5, you're giving up your day jobs. It's scary to have no income. And then I went through that myself. And then you're just trying to get any sort of money to come through your way, regardless whether it's going to be wedding, portraits, baby, pet, anything that you can make money off. Very tempting, very, very tempting to do that, just because that will give you income. And but it's not good, because that you will be spreading everything everywhere, and people don't know who you are as a photographer, because you do everything. And yes, you may get the jobs here and there, and you will continue to do that. But then if you're not specializing or become great at something, you can never increase your price. as a photographer when you develop. So over time, when you're becoming more established, you really want to start increasing your price and trying to bring yourself up to the level that you want to be. But if you can't, if you have everything just kind of dotted around everywhere, it's going to be very difficult for you to kind of boost your money up to that level. You have to be a specialist. You have to be a great master for that particular categories. So that means that by saying no to certain things is always a good thing. To do that is I know it's hard, and I've been there myself, for the first couple of years when I had virtually no inquiries for weddings or anything like that. I literally did, like what you said there. I just say yes to everything. Oh, you want me to take photo of your dog having poo? Yeah, I will do it. Give me money. Oh, you want me to take photograph you changing nappies? Yeah, I'll do that. I do everything, and for the first couple of years, it was quite tough for me in a way, because I gave up my 9 to 5. I was using a lot of money, hence today's title. Actually, I don't know if you realize, I say I paid to take photographs professionally, because I actually paid a lot of money, and when I first started photography, and that is a scary thing in a way, that you give up your steady incomes, you're coming out in the wild, trying to survive on your own, and trying to develop something that no one else heard of. It's a really, really difficult thing. And I can see a lot of a lot of photographers going through the same stage, and they always ask me, how did I survive that? I guess persevere. You have to persevere. You have to be consistent, really determined that you want to be reaching to that level one day. Never ever give up, and you have to believe in yourself that you can do it, or believe in you. You have to believe in yourself, in what you do. Obviously that you choose to be a professional photographer, you got to be something, right? You got to know your stuff. You know that you are capable of doing what you love to do. So just keep on believing, and one day that will happen. I don't know when, but you just have to keep at it, and you can second shoot, you can do things, you can still earn money at the same time, and but just be mindful of what you're going to say yes or what you're going to say no to, and so it's a very chicken and egg stuff, but you got to make sure that you don't kind of choose the wrong route, and you might as well end up with whoever was saying that about the fashion photographer, right? And you might end up with something that completely is not your thing, and you might end up regretting it, even though that maybe okay money, but it just depends, and you really need to enjoy something to last this long. If I don't enjoy weddings, how could I be possibly shooting for 15 years? Wedding to some people can be very boring, and I've seen photographers coming in and out of the industry because they don't like it, or they just can't stand it. It's not easy. It's very demanding, mentally, physically. It's not the easy thing, but it's very rewarding at the same time. And you see all these smiles and all these nice people, and then you go to check out nice venues, gonna eat nice food, and you see a lot of people, and for a lot of my clients, they really like me to be their lifetime photographers. You know why? Because I started taking engagement photos for them, then I take their weddings, then I take their kids' photos, and I take their graduation photos. I end up taking photos through different stages of their life, and that's amazing, right? And that's what fascinates me, because I'm always a people person. I like people, and by seeing them grow and also accompanying them through the life journey is really, nothing can be more rewarding than that. It's really fun, and a lot of them, a lot of my clients are now my friends. They follow me on Facebook, they follow me on Instagram, they call me up every now and then, they email me, ask me how am I and things like that, and it's really nice, to have people like that. So it's really, really nice. Okay, and on a serious but light note, on price wars, I absolutely loathe talks who undercut prices. They are bad for the industry in multiple ways, and bad for those of us who depend on this for a livelihood. Yes, of course, and but don't get distracted by them. And I learned it also from hard experience as well. And because I started a price war, they started the price war, so I'm trying to undercut them. It became a very tough thing to do, especially in my earlier part of my career. And so don't get into that. I know it's painful. Ignore them. Like I said, if the clients are more the budget focused type of clients, just let them be. They're obviously looking at numbers anyway. They don't really care about how good you are as a photographer. So let them do the things. I want my clients to be happy because they appreciate my photography, and that's simple. Nothing more, nothing less. I want them to enjoy my photography. I want them to love me because of what I can produce. And that's why I can develop this really lovely relationship with my clients, because they love my work. They really enjoy the experience working with me, and they enjoy the photos. They print them up, they print albums, they do all kinds of things because they love my work. And that's the clients I want. I don't want people who just say, you're worth this much, you want that much. That's only numbers. I don't like numbers. We are in an art industry in a way, so we want them to appreciate my art, my skills, my craftsmanship. So this is the saying that I'm going to say that. I think I told you that before. That I have a story which is a true thing, and that was a client that she asked me. The bride, it's always the bride. She asked me to be her wedding photographer, and ultimately, I was stopped by another photographer, and she told me that, oh, I got because I discussed with my fiance that another photographer can offer slightly better package and slightly cheaper. I want you, but my fiance said no. So they went with the cheaper photographers, right? They went with that. And what happened? After the wedding, literally after the wedding, I think it was about 2 weeks after the wedding, she called me. He called me, Jimmy, I wasn't very happy with the photographs from that photographer. I said, wow, you had the photo already? Yeah, I had them already. It's very quick, but I don't like them. And but obviously the wedding's gone, so I can't do anything with the weddings now. But I would like you to come out and have a session with me in my wedding dress. I want just to take some of the portraits again, just with me and my husband now. I said, ooh, okay. And that happens to me not once, but a few times already. So this is the thing. This is always the thing. And I wouldn't say that it reflects to everybody. There could be some cheaper and also good photographers out there, but there are also a lot of people that may not actually have the necessary skills to satisfy this type of budget, but they're trying to get it, and just by undercutting your costs or your price. And then what happened? They came back. I mean, okay, I don't earn the full wedding, but then I still got to photograph the portrait, which is actually the easy part for me. So I end up taking another session with them, and they love those photos. They love those photos. They asked me to do a couple of albums for them for those sets. That shows that if you stand strong, stills, and believe in yourself, believe in your work, they will come back. One way or the other, they will come back eventually. I have a lot of clients, and they really insist on using me, but I was double booked or whatever. It's gonna be hard, but it shows your demand. And if you create that sort of aurora around you, you'll be more demanding ultimately. So be mindful of that. I think that will help you eventually. And Victor, in any service job, the most time when negotiating the price means that they do not appreciate your time. Yeah, absolutely. This is exactly what I'm saying there. I mean, it's fine as a consumer. You're going to look for the best price and the best package for your money, right? That's understandable. But I think, there are also something that you do get what you pay for at the end of the day. There's no argument there. You can get a cheap watch, but you can get an expensive watch. They both tell the time, but if you appreciate certain things like the craftsmanship, the design, you pay the more expensive stuff, and that's the only way to get that, is to pay it, right? So same in photography, it's the same thing. If you want that look, you want that service, if you want that quality, you pay for it. I mean, there are other photographers, definitely. There are other qualities, but what quality do you want? You want the shit one or the really good one? So that's exactly right, Victor. For most cases, bad for the couple clients because the quality is compromised. Absolutely. Oh yes. Oh, that's another thing. It's more technical, but Trevor is right there. Electronic shutter is almost unusable with flash sync speeds, and yeah, it is right. You can't really do anything. You have to use mechanical shutter and to be able to use a flash, and so yeah, just be mindful of that as well. And that's why if you put the Olympus flash onto the camera, if you have the silent shutter enabled, you won't be able to fire the flash at all. You have to put it in mechanical shutter. Matthias, hello there. Oh, I have so many problems with the light flickering using my Panasonic GX9. I don't have these problems with my EM1 Mark III so far. Is it really depending on, obviously technology has improved so much now since I first started mirrorless photography. But when in the early days, I do notice a lot of bandings, and which is really it's horrible. And so it's something that I told myself not to use silent shutters, and I still kind of use that rules. I don't try to use silent shutters as unless it's necessary. But most of the time, is mechanical shutter is fine. And like I said, just don't overshoot. You'll be okay. And in terms of the level of disruption to the wedding, they probably won't even notice that, to be honest. And depending on sort of distance from between the camera and the subject itself, so it should be fine. But I'm actually interesting to hear from you though, because the GX9 has more light flickering than the EM1 Mark III. David Crooks, did I get the 150 to 400 yet? Oh, no. I don't know if you missed my. You probably didn't. You probably didn't hear my Facebook Live yesterday. I was talking about the new direction of what Olympus is taking, at least in the short term, is that they are going to focus more on the wildlife and sports photography because of all these new lenses coming out. They're big long lens there, and also the new EM1 Mark III. So at the moment, people who get hold of that lens is only the wildlife and also the sports photographers. And I'm not in any of these genres. I'm not in those categories in the ambassador levels. So I'm not getting one yet. And they did say that I will have one eventually, but not yet. So like I don't know when they're gonna hand me a sample for me to play around with, and I don't know when that is. Could be December, could be next year sometime, but as soon as I get it, I will show it to you guys, and pretty sure that I will be as exciting as you to really just to experience that lens. And like I said, eventually I will get that lens one way or the other. I will get that lens, but I don't know when that will be, and because it's quite expensive, as you know already. It's going to be $6,500 in the UK. It's, so expensive. But if you compare to the full frame equivalent, it's actually a very good price, very attractive price, to be honest. Because full frame equivalent would be like 12-15 grand worth of a lens, and this is only like 6.5, so it's almost more than half the price as the full frame equivalent. So I would like to try that lens. Okay, that's Rick Bear replying to Nat. Jason, I'm a wedding and family portrait photographer and thinking of putting a selection of photos on the website that's on my personal portfolio, not client work. I don't see a problem. Okay, that's another thing. Right, I start up with a very weird comment that I received lately. One of I'm not sure if he's here, but he's a subscriber. So he left a comment in my one of my new videos. I don't know whether the last one or the one before that. He said, "Why don't I show more of my professional work to on the YouTube channel?" And also like because I claim to be professional, that means I should have a lot more photos to show. Right, my thing is I need to clarify and declare that I have a professional obligation to protect my clients' privacy. I sign NDAs to all of them, and I will ask their permission to see whether I can share their photos in most cases. If I can share them, I will share them, and if I can't, then I won't. In most cases, I have a lot of high-value individuals and also some of the people that are actually known to the public, so I simply cannot show those photos to people as much as I want to show them, because that will boost my profile, right? But if you sign the agreement, if they said no, I want to keep them private, and then and that will be it. Not that they're not happy about the photos, but because a lot of the times it involves their family, and so it's almost heartbreaking for me not to show you a lot of my work because they are quite nice. And so you have to be mindful of that if you are photographing family portraits, for instance. And if you want to put them into your portfolio, usually if it's not commercial, it should be okay. But I would say that if you can contact your clients and to just ask for permission just very quickly, if I want to show a couple of photos in my website for personal reasons, for portfolio reasons, whether it's okay or not, and usually it should be okay. But in my terms and conditions, if I send a contract out to my clients, I also say that I actually own the copyrights for all the photos, but I'm only granting you an unlimited license to do whatever you want with the photos that I give you. So that's another thing, you have to make sure that you do that. And but apart from that, I respect the privacy, so that's why I also have another clause there. If you don't want your photos to be shared, please let me know so that I won't share any of those photos at all, or anyone that you would like me to share, then let me know as well. So that's the thing that you have to be clarified. Even though you own the copyrights, doesn't mean that you can showcase to a lot of people. And at a personal level, yes, no problem. But because it's a website these days, website is public. It's not locked. It's not secure. That means if you show it to other people, if it's searchable, that becomes a public work. And so you just have to be very careful. There's a fine line there, whether what you can do with those photos. And just be respectful, and they'll respect you ultimately. Okay, Jason, hopefully that answered your question. Okay, and right, Rick Bear here. Oh, are you talking to me? I think you're talking to Nat. Right, okay. James Wong, nowadays we have to compete with videographers and handphone shooters. Oh my god, handphone people. I have so much experience with those. Right, that's another educational stuff that you just have to be mindful of that. I'm not sure where you are, James, and in the UK, there are two ways of doing it. And one thing is that you make a declaration when you first meet them, whether it's going to be the clients or the video people. And you just say to them that try not to interfere each other, we respect each other, you're here for work, I'm here for work, I got my shot to take, you got your video to take. Let me know if you want to get certain things or vice versa. So we work a plan, we work together, we work in tandem to whatever we do. So you just have to be upfront and be open about everything. And there will be time that they still obstruct you and things, but you just have to give them a nudge, so I'm trying to take this shot here, can I have the space for that? And you just have to work together. Try not to get into argument, because it's not going to be good, because you are staying with them for the whole day. And in terms of handphone shooters, right, I don't mind them usually, but only after registry. So I hate them in registry. And so what I would do is, when I met my clients, I will make sure, I'll tell them that I do not want any people using their phones during ceremony when you're saying your vows. And I'll say that again to the registrars who are conducting the exchange. And I'll say that to even a lot of registrars now, they are very relaxed. They say, oh, you can do whatever you want. The guests, if you can take photos, I'm not restricting you. They will do that. But you tell them what you want, because you control it. You are the professional photographer. You hire to be there to take the photos for the bride and grooms. So you have that power. So all you need to do is to tell the registrar that you don't want anybody else using their phone during ceremony. You can do that. And by that, you can control everything and within your grasp. But having said that, I still have a few occasions where these people just don't listen. My very worst experience is that, and I was doing a wedding, and and even though I told them that no photography during the ceremony, I was about to position myself for the first kiss, after the exchange of vows. So close, I was doing that. I was about to walk around getting into position. But before I do that, two uncles, one Uncle A and one Uncle B, stepped right into my position, holding a big giant iPad with the flash on, and take photographs. And not only that, one of them is taking video, so he just stood there all the bloody time, obstructing the entire thing. I couldn't take the shot, and the moment was gone. I knew he was there, so I had to change my plan, like literally adjusting myself for my plan Z, just trying to get that shot, regardless. So I took that shot. Wasn't the perfect shot. Wasn't a nice shot. In fact, I have him in the background. But look, I tell my client afterwards, look, your uncle's there. He blocked my shot. I told you that no photography during ceremony, but they came up and blocked the bloody shot. I did what I can to try to rescue it, and but there's so much I can do when it's right there in front of me. And but that tells you the story that even though as much as you can control, but you want to control the whole situation, sometimes you just can't. So don't be so hard on yourself. I know that it's very frustrating when you experience things like that. But don't worry about it. You just have to get on with it. But you tell your clients. That's exactly why you need to educate your clients right from the beginning when you first met them. And you just tell them all the criteria there, all the potential pitfalls. And you just say that if your uncle suddenly jump out, I can't rescue it. Simple as that. And they realized that. In fact, they were so angry with their uncle afterward. I'm telling you, like after I told them that your uncle blocked the shot, I couldn't get your first kids. They were cross. They were very cross with the uncle. They went up to tell them, and then it's not very nice that day. And but anyway, that's a story. But at least they knew that wasn't my fault, and that's the main thing, right? You don't want to get into argument with them that you didn't do your job properly and things like that. But lucky I clarified everything right from the beginning. Say that no photos, no iPhone stuff, whatever during ceremony. Talk to the registrar. Registrar said the same thing twice, 2 warnings, and they still did it. It really wasn't my fault. Okay. And no insurance costs, as I don't charge or contract for anything in advance. No promise results. They just get chance to buy after. Okay, you talk about other things. Steve, weddings equal weekend work. That's not necessarily. I've done a lot of weddings during weekdays because weekdays are cheaper for the venues. So I do actually get a lot of the weekday weddings, and in the past. And these days I don't tend to do them anymore. And not that I don't have them, I just don't do them. Well, not this year, but last year. And it's a fact because depending on the budget of the clients or whatever money they have for their weddings, venue cost is significant. If you look in the overall budget, the venue can easily take 50-60% of it. It's a very expensive thing to do. So if you can save like 10% or maybe even like 15 or 10% of the cost of hiring the venue, that could potentially pay for your fee. So that's how expensive it is. So a weekday weddings is usually a lot cheaper compared to weddings. So weekend weddings, because weekends are everybody fight for the weekends because they know everybody can take the time off to attend your weddings. But actually, that's a false impression. If they're your friends, if you're inviting them for your wedding, they would take the bloody time to come to your wedding, right? It doesn't matter whether it's going to be weekend or weekdays. It doesn't matter. If you invite me to your wedding, if I'm free, if I don't have any other bookings, I will come. Whether it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, doesn't matter. I will come. We are friends. We're mates, right? If you're a relative, we are cousins. I will come to your wedding. Doesn't matter what time it is. You take the time off. So, but anyway, this is the myth of the wedding industry, right? Everyone trying to fight for the weekend. So that's why weekends is always more expensive compared to weekdays. But saying that, like I said, weekdays are cheaper. So there are actually more clients fighting for weekdays because they can only do one, depending on the duration of the wedding, but they could usually take one wedding per Saturday, one wedding for Sunday. That means they can only hold, the venue can only hold 2 weddings per weekend, and that will be it. So everyone will be fighting for it, and most weekends are gone usually by the beginning of the year, and then everyone will be scraping whatever dates they can find and during the weekdays. And you do actually have a lot of weekday weddings, to be honest. Have you tried? I just answered you. No, I haven't tried. I would love to try the 150 to 400, and that would be that would be my wet dream come true. And so I don't think I will have it just yet. No, I will have it next week or the week after. I think it will be a little bit of a wait for me to get the 150 to 400. And yes, that's unfortunate. And I don't know when I will be having it, but I will eventually. Because I spoke to Olympus a couple of months ago. I said that yeah, I want to have a go at it. I will probably eventually get one as well. But I just want to try it for the videos, and so we shall see when I'm gonna get one. They only have one, currently only have one in the UK for demonstrations and also for press to do the reviews on, because I'm not a press. I'm just a YouTube guy. So even though I'm an ambassador, they just think that nah, you're nothing. I'll let the press do the work first. I said to them that I can probably get more views by reviewing your lens than any other people out there. That is true fact. Anyway, they have their own agenda, so they'll see what happens. Will you do a collab with Rob, Trek, Robin, and Charlie? I had a collab with Rob and Robin in the beginning of this year. Actually, that was way back now. I think Rob actually I actually do talk to them, and I think Rob suggested to me to do another live at some point. So yes, there will be some collaborations, but I do not know when just yet. I don't know Charlie actually, but I do know Peter Forsgard. I know what was that? The other Olympus educator in the US, the wedding guy. Shoot, I just forgot his name suddenly. It's not good. And he's a great mate. And but yeah, I know a lot of them, and I'll be doing some collaborations for live. If you guys are interested, let me know, and I will set up something, and let me know your topics and what you want to hear as well, so that I can kind of maybe talk to them in advance and see what sort of area they would like to hear, and we can go from there. So thanks for the thought, Jimmy. Much appreciated. I need to start my channel and share my journey soon. Have to work on the final edits. No problem, mate. I'm looking forward to see your channel, mate. We all give him a shout out here. Right. Oh, Willy Billy. I had a question here. How do you normally shoot the wedding ring in a wedding? Do you bring an extra macro lens specifically for that? Right. Yes and no. Yes, I do have a lens with me at wedding. I usually have my actually these days I carry the 33.5 macro more than the 60. I used to have the 60 until I have the 30, because the 30 is so compact, and it's just easier for me to work. And the reason is because 60 is a great macro lens. Don't get me wrong, it's a really phenomenal macro lens, but it's too long. It's too long for doing ring shots, and that means that it will affect the stability. Even though that we have really phenomenal IBIS with the cameras, but having 60mm, that's it's still gonna be a little bit tricky. You need to have a higher shutter speed to counteract the actual the camera movement. But having a 30 it's just the right focal length for me to do the ring shots. So it's easy for me to do. Even at 3.5, it's not actually that bad at all if you have enough light. If not, use a phone. Just put the flash on. Just put it close to you and just do the macro like that, and it will come up really, really nice and very easy. So yes, I do have a macro lens for that. But even if I don't, I can easily use my 45-1.8 or the 25-1.2 to do similar shots. May not be as close, but I will be able to get a very, very nice isolation shot for the ring because of the close focusing capabilities of any of the Micro Four Thirds lenses. Because you can get up to like 10 centimeters or 12 centimeters. They're very close. So yeah, you can actually do a lot with those lenses now. I don't necessarily need to have a macro lens, but I have one just in case I need to get closer than what the lenses will allow me to do. So that's okay. That is all good. So hope you get that. Let's see now. Morgan, Danish representative told yesterday there are only 2 copies here in Europe. Yep, I know one in the UK, that's for sure, because Claire Harvey May, which is one of our Olympus UK team, and currently has that one. That's one of them. So one is in the UK, and another one will be circulating in Europe. That's why it's a very rare lens. So that's exactly why I said I do not know when I'm going to have a chance to play with that lens. I hope soon, but depending on how Olympus value my exposure opportunity, I hope soon. And like I said to them, I'd even tell them I want to get one, but obviously, you know, general stock is not going to be available until January, the earliest, and well, second, I just don't have $6.5 grand to pay at the moment, especially during lockdown. You know, like every penny counts at the moment. I need to survive through this tough period, and just to make sure that, you know, myself and my family are sound at the end of this pandemic thing, and so like, I don't think I can spare $6.5 grand straight away like this, and as much as I would like to. If this year my business as usual, I will probably get it, you know, without thinking. I just get one. But no, this year is hard. This year is tough. So it's next year, you know, in the UK at least. And I'm hoping it will prove me wrong next year. And but at the moment, I'm not holding all my horses for next year. And I just hope that it's going to be safer for everyone to go out. And that's all I'm thinking at the moment. So I'm not really thinking about business going to return straight away. It will take time. But hopefully sooner. And that will be good. Then I can afford the lens. And James, pay talks need to take control and not let others to be in our way. Yes, you're right, but there are only so much you can do. Because first of all, they are your clients, even though they are their clients' relatives, but they're still their clients. You know, they're in that group, they're in that categories there. You can talk to them, but in situations like that, when it's a very sudden thing, like they just jump out and block your thing when I was photographing, there's not much I can do, because if I shout, if I scream or trying to push them, and or talk to them, whatever way I want to do it, I'm going to miss the moment anyway, because they're not going to stop the wedding because of that. So and that's why it's very, very difficult in that particular situations. I mean, like I said, I already warned them when we met. I warned them again before the ceremony through the registrar. I even talked to the group in front of everybody. I'm here to take the job, so please make my job easier to be here, because the bride and groom pay a lot of money for me to be here. So I want to take the best shots for them. So please respect that. And refrain from holding your phone up or doing some silly thing by jumping out and blocking my shots. I actually said that, but they still do it, and there's nothing else I can do. And so, unfortunately, shit happens. Okay, Kwan. Oh no, I can't agree with you talking depth of field. I used both Olympus and full frame camera. You are confusing. Yep. Really? Well. Depends, you know. I'm pretty sure a lot of photographers here who shoot wedding would be very, very may, you know, talk to you about the depth of field issues. I don't confuse people. I'm just stating the fact that how I use the camera it is how it is. If I need shallow depth of field, I just use a wider aperture lens. I just have to adjust my distance between myself and the bride and groom, or whatever subject I want to take a photograph with. But the deeper depth of field does allow me to take a lot more indoor shot without having to pump up the ISO, nor having to pump in a lot of artificial lights. And that's the fact, because if you have 5-6 lines of people, let me show you one photo. If I can find one, let me just show you that, and you can see exactly what I mean about that. And let's see. Let me just find that photo first. I'm pretty sure I have it somewhere, and I will tell you exactly why that is. Okay, and at the moment, if anyone have any other question, you're very welcome to continue dropping down the questions, and I will try to answer them as much as I can. Let me find that photo so I can show you exactly. Oh, there you go. Right. Okay. So Quang Pang Ping, here we go. This is the photo I want to show you. Okay. Let me just shrink it down a little bit, just because I want to fit in here somehow. Okay. Hopefully you can see. Oh, you're blocking myself. Let me just try to move this. Maybe this side. Okay. To this side is better. Right, okay, you can see this photo, right? So this photo was shot with the 7-14 2.8 Pro on the E1 Mark II. and it was, if I remember, it was set to f4, and ISO. It was ISO. I think it was ISO 640 or 800. Fairly dim, not dim, not dark, but not very bright either. And but you can see the amount of people behind the couple. There were 100 people on the staircase, exactly 100, because they told me how many guests there were. They're all there, and I took this shot in f4. And f4. You try to do that with a full frame, you know, and with ISO 640, it's impossible. I can tell you from experience. I shot with Canon full frame. If I want to achieve this shot, this very simple shot, I need to stop down the lens to at least f8, if not f11 even. Then I have to pump up the ISO to 3200, maybe even higher at 6400 to get this light. It's impossible. Well, it's not impossible. You just don't get the same quality. And but the thing is, you probably can't see it. But if I zoom into to all the spectators at the back of the staircase, every one of them is sharp. Every one of them was sharp. And it's how good a Micro Four Thirds system is with the deeper depth of field. And so I think that if you shoot wedding using Micro Four Thirds, you definitely appreciate what I'm saying. And if you use both full frame and Micro Four Thirds to shoot wedding and you disagree, that means you might be doing something wrong. And well, I can't disagree with you if you can insisting that that's totally different. And but I'm only speaking from my experience, and I can show you this shot here. And that's these sort of things happens all the times in wedding. I have to shoot multiple people in indoor environments when the light is dim. You have to like basically open up the aperture or boost your ISO up. And in that case, if you use like a bigger system, bigger format, your depth of field is definitely narrower, and that means you will have to either stop down you have to stop down the lens to get everything in focus, and by doing so, you will have to, pump the ISO up way high to get the same shot, and it is what it is. I don't want to argue anymore. I mean, I don't want to kind of say something that that might upset some people, but I'm only speaking through experience, and this is my sample shot here, and hopefully you kind of get what I'm saying. And deeper depth of field will help in that sort of situations, and likewise shallow depth of field, I can easily do really shallow depth of field photographs by using different lenses and different distance compared to full frame. You can never do the same thing if you stand in the same position, having a full frame camera on your left hand and then Micro Four Thirds on your right hand, and shoot the same thing directly at the same thing directly at the same time. Of course, you're going to get different results. Of course, it's not going to be the same, because you are comparing apples and oranges at the same time, which never worked. So, to be able to utilize your Micro Four Thirds system, you have to be a Micro Four Thirds photographer. And that means that you just have to use a Micro Four Thirds, adjust yourself to it, and trying to find a way around it. It's not actually a disadvantage or anything that you have to, nothing is right or wrong here. It's simply you adjusting yourself to a different format. And like I said, there's no good or bad thing about different formats. Each have their own purposes. Full frame has its own purpose. Micro Four Thirds has them, same as medium format and APS-C. But if you're using both systems at the same time, it can be a little bit confusing, to be honest. And I did that once, but I was in the middle of transitioning myself, so I was trying to force myself to think in Micro Four Thirds way, and it did for me. It did well for me, and I think that that's why I actually eventually gave up on full frame and moved to Micro Four Thirds, as simple as that, because I appreciate whatever I can get from the Micro Four Thirds that I couldn't get, or harder to get with the full frame, and that's it. Kwan, I think I kind of already said it earlier about the depth of field thing. It's not, if you actually Google it a little bit more, a little bit deeper, then you really truly understand what I just said. A 50mm lens is a 50mm lens. A 25 is a 25. The depth of field will be different because they are different lenses. But if you shoot a 50mm lens, on a full frame, and then crop out the center portion of it, and then you compare it, it's the same thing. Okay, and Martin, hello there. I'm trying not to be pushy. I have a second shooter and will still miss some shots, or we still get uncles in our shot. It happens just to try to educate the bride and groom in advance, and that's correct. Like I said, you really cannot control everything in weddings. You really can't, and you just have to, place your bet and just hope for the best. Most cases. Now, that's not education, like I said to them, and don't be too hard on yourself. I mean, talking to the bride and grooms. I said, don't be too hard to yourself in terms of the planning for the day. No matter how detailed, how much you want to control the day, it will never ever follow the plan. You can have the gist of it, you can have the bulk of it, but no, it won't happen in exactly you won't exactly at 2 o'clock at 3 minutes. Sorry, 3 minutes past 2. It won't happen like that. It won't happen to exact time that you plan in your schedule. No, it never ever happen like that. And then you just relax, enjoy your wedding. That's what I tell my clients. But just be mindful things that can go sideways. And so you just have to tell them in advance about everything that you, from your experience, telling them that what would happen if you don't do this and that, and just warn them in advance so they understand the potentials, where it could go wrong and things like that. And they appreciate that. They appreciate that you're sharing your experience. And also at the same time, they realize that you are experienced. You are a pro, so you know what you're talking, because you're talking to me that from past experience, and I need to be aware of it. And they will totally appreciate it, and that's exactly why they will pay you for that money that you want to charge. Because, yeah, that's exactly the reason. I do, but depends on the style of each shooters, and most churches in Philippines are dark. You don't have any lights at all in any dimmer environments. You just have to try to find ways to shoot it, and that you should be okay. Joe Ellis, that's the one. Yes, Joseph Ellis. Yes, that's the other educator. I like him. I really like him, and I spoke with him a couple of times, and I also spoke with him on Facebook recently. And we did a collaboration with Rob early in the year. We have a live stream together, 3 of us, and we talked a lot about weddings. And he's a really educated guy, and I can tell you that. And he's very technical in weddings, and he's a really good photographer, and he's a really good one. He knows exactly what he's talking about. He appreciates the art of photography, which is what I like about him. And not saying others don't, but I know that a lot of photographers on YouTube, at least that I know of, and that are communicating with, they are not really photographers. They know photography, they know how to operate photography as cameras, but they are not really photographers. They don't have the same appreciation of the hard work, the compositions, and a lot of things. They can talk about it, but they don't get into that sort of technical details, and to really kind of break down an image and say things of why that is such a great photograph. So it's a lot. It takes a lot of time to actually start to appreciate and deconstruct certain photos. It's not easy, and you have to have certain caliber and also certain experience to be able to do that. And Joe Ellis is one of those guys who can actually deconstruct a photograph and starting to tell you exactly what's going on with that photograph. And that's how good it is. And I think he's a really great photographer there. Yep, James as well. Same thing. Yep. Oh, a Cote d'Ivoire comment. That's cool. The other lens was in Finland, Peter Forsgaard, mate, and who is a wildlife photographer. Yeah, I know. I saw his video. He was interviewing his, or at least doing a recording with the video with his friend in Finland. I saw half of the video. I didn't see the whole thing, and then they were talking about it and things like that. Yeah, it is such a rare thing, and apparently I think that guy only had a day or two with the lens, and he had to give it back to to the Olympus team and circulating to another photographer. So, like I said, because this lens is the target audience is for the wildlife community and also the sports community. That means that I will be at the bottom of the list in terms of priority. So like, I would basically get the lens when it's all battered up and it's all scratched up. Then I will probably eventually get it at some point, and when everybody play with it, and I'm gonna have a whatever very used up lens. But at least it shows the durability of it, and I hope that it will come in as like scarred up and everything like that. And Rick saying that is ideal social distancing lens for wedding portraitures. Yep, maybe that's the reason I should tell Olympus. I can use your 150 to 400 Pro for wedding. For wedding, yes. Social distancing. I can shoot the wedding from across the football field. Yeah, I'm not going to touch them. I'm not even going to speak to them. I just let it happen. I can use your lens to capture all the candid shots that all the bride and groom ever wants. all from a distance of a football field. That would be cool, right? But yeah, this lens is special. I've seen a lot of sample shots. I've seen a lot of stuff that you guys haven't seen yet, and because obviously one of UK ambassadors, who's Mike Inkley, he's done a lot of motorsports. He got the lens for quite a while. Actually, he had the lens, I think 3 months ago, for a long time. He had it for about 3 weeks, I think, and he was doing some test projects and also some sample shots for Olympus Japan. And so he was running the campaign there. That's why he had the lens for that long. But he showed me a lot of images there. I just said, wow, did you capture that? So yeah, it's all from that lens. It's amazing. It's really amazing lens. That's why I think the 150 to 400 will be a magnificent, also a testament to Olympus optical designs, and it will be a very, very collectible lens if one wants to spend $6,500. Yeah, that's it. I said it. Okay. Any other question you want to ask me? And before I jump in a little bit, and just to see what else on my list. I spoke a lot actually, and I answered a lot already, which is very similar to what you guys have asked me already. So which is good. So let me just see if there are any other questions. Okay. I think I got most of the questions answered. Oh, yes. What's my wedding kit? That's another question. What should I get if I want to start a wedding business in Micro Four Third, or actually any format? Right. First of all, you will need a pro body. And the reason I say that is not just about dual cast law, not just about things like that. It's reliability. Okay, and not that any other cameras are not reliable, don't get me wrong, they possibly are, but I can guarantee that the pro bodies have the name Pro, or the designation Pro, for a reason. And they build something is definitely more durable and reliable in hostile environments. And that's like the likes of EM1X or the EM1 series in general. They are aiming for the pros, so they have better weather sealing, they have better constructions, more rugged construction, and it is what it is. Because I let me tell you something. Even when my Canon days, I had the the EOS 5D series. I switched when I was having when I had the I keep saying EM, the EOS 5D Mark III. That's the time when I switched, and the 5D3 was how Canon labeled it, as a semi-pro camera. So like, a lot of people actually didn't know that. They thought the 5D was a professional camera. Not in Canon's book. Canon actually labeled that camera as a semi-pro camera. Just because a lot of wedding photographers use it, it doesn't mean it's a professional camera. It was only a semi-pro camera. The pro cameras was the 1D series. The 1D was the professional camera, so it's built for professional. So the 5D, the one that I got, failed me a few times, and then and that's no joke. It did fail me a few times, and I was in China traveling, and I ran into torrential rain, and the camera just died. And then I went to another place. I went to a desert, and then and the camera stopped functioning because yeah, somehow some sand got in, even though I didn't change the lens. Something happened, sucked into the mechanism somewhere. It just stopped working. They cleaned it all up, made it work again, and they said it was a sand particle. Okay, and then another time my 5D stopped because of rain yet again, even though it's weather sealed. So it happened. But like I said, when I switched to Olympus, I got the Pro bodies. I got the EM1 Mark II. That's my first Olympus Pro camera, and then I subsequently got the EM1X. These two cameras never fail me, especially the EM1X. You know, the EM1X has been through hell with me, and it's a phenomenal thing that is indestructible to an extent that I would say that you can almost swim with this camera. It's cool. It's a really good professional tool. That's why nowadays, if I go to professional weddings, go to portrait shoots for clients, I usually take the EM1X. There are times I take the EM1 Mark III, but EM1X at this moment in time, I still trust it a little bit more than EM1 Mark III, only because of how I feel about the camera, and not so much about what is written on the specs, but how I feel and how through the past 12 months and how I used the cameras and how it behaves. You know, basically it didn't fail me at once. You know, like I shoot a lot of photos in last year in 2019. I had 170 portrait shoots, and I have about 15-20 weddings. I can't remember now. And on top of that, I have other video projects. I have other things to do, and so I have a lot of things going on with the camera. It hasn't failed me once. It hasn't failed me a single time. Everything works as it should, but that's what a professional needs. So getting a professional camera is the first thing you need to do for working in a professional environment. You don't want any failure. Second, you need a backup camera. So even though that as reliable as the EM1X, I still want to be sure that if that thing does fail me at some point, I have myself covered. So I have a backup camera. So it could either be the EM5 Mark III or the EM1 Mark II or 3, depending on what it is. So something like that. So that means that you will have to carry 2 cameras to any sort of weddings. I used to have 2 cameras, sometimes 3. Don't know why, but then I have 3 sometimes. And then lenses, you can. It's really depending on styles of photography. And for me, I am more of a prime guy. So I have all the pro primes. So I have the 45 1.2. 25 1.2, 17 1.2, so I have 3 of those 1.2 lenses. I have the 30 macro that I told you earlier for ring shots, for detail shots. Then I have the 40 to 150 zoom, and for walking shots and other distance shots that I need to take, you know, for like, let's say maybe some candidates I need to take for guests, like mingling, things like that. It's easier with a tele zoom. That's all I need. So lenses wise, this is kind of my go-to. I will, depending on the venue, like the one that you saw earlier, the photos there is taken with the 7 to 14 f2.8. So I will bring a ultra wide lens for that. And so if I know the venue is going to be tight, have a confined space, and it's very difficult to maneuver, I will have that lens in my pocket as well, so that everything is covered. So at the end of the day, you decide what sort of thing you do, what sort of capability you want to achieve in your photography. If you want a shallow depth of field, then you probably want to have something faster in your aperture, or if you're expecting a lot of very challenging lighting conditions, go for the more wide aperture. That will give you that flexibility there while maintaining shutter speed or lower ISO value. That's it. That's as simple as that. So I wouldn't really try to dictate you what sort of lenses you should get. You should know exactly what you want to shoot. So but body wise, you really want to have a pro body if you really want to turn pro. As simple as that, because it's reliability that you really want. Okay, so that's cool. And that would be all that I want to say today, because I know I've been running for about 2 hours now. Ooh, 2 hours 20 minutes. That's long for my chat. Good stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's talk on the business side of things. And I know that I couldn't cover everything, because to talk about business is a lot. And also trying to share my 15 years of commercial experience is a lot. And I can't shrunk, you know, my 15 years into 2 hours. It's impossible. So I can only speak for experience, and I can only respond if you have a question. So I can only do that. But other than that, it's gonna be very tricky for me to really extract things that from my career to tell you guys about it. So if you have any other question, you're very welcome to ask me about the business side of it. If you want to learn more about how to start a business, how to make more money, how to get clients, how to promote your business, and things like that. I have all that as well. And let me know in the comment section down below. You can very welcome to ask me, and if I can, I'll probably do another live session just to talk about other things. And but it will be a while now, and before I do another live chat about business stuff, because it's not easy to talk about business, and unless you are in that situations, unless you are actually already operating or plan to operate a business. And also another thing is like I mentioned earlier, not many people are usually tuning to this sort of thing, and unless it's very specific that is relating to them. So I would be trying to be as general as possible for all my lovely friends on YouTube, because I don't want to bore anybody. And if they find it useful, I'm hoping they find it useful, and they will give me this, and and that will be cool, and because it's hard to talk about everything at one go, but I will try. I will try my best to do that. So hopefully next week I'm going to talk about something else, and I will hopefully be another light-hearted photography, maybe Olympus live chat. So you can ask me anything about Olympus once again, about certain things, maybe the new firmware. I'm excited about the new firmware, so maybe I'm going to have another chat about that. I don't have the beta software. I know Peter Forska had tested one, and so they're not in circulation. I believe that Peter actually got hold of a M1X that was would have the beta firmware installed, so he actually borrowed the camera. At the moment, the beta software is not available in circulation within any ambassadors at the moment, so I don't think that we have the opportunity to have a look at it until the actual thing is out in the public. But I will be doing a review for that, and simply because there are a couple of features I am super excited about. First of all is the video stabilization, because I shoot video, and also is the Apple ProRes RAW compatibility with the Ninja 5 external recorder. That will give me 12-bit video recording, and that's massive, that's big. So I'm waiting for that to happen, and that could be really awesome. So I'll testing all those and let you know exactly how everything works, because I have all the cameras with me. I have the EM1X, I have the EM1 Mark III, Mark II, EM5 Mark III, EM10 Mark IV. I have all of them in my possession here, so I will be able to tell you exactly what everything does, and that is exciting. That will be one hell of a video to make. That would be too much to do. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me again, and hope you guys enjoyed today's 2 hours long video chat. But I'm so appreciate that you guys all tune in here and listen to me, and if you have any question, like I said, drop me a comment, even DM me. I'll be able to answer something, and I shall speak to you all very soon. So thanks again. I will end today's stream with our standard ending. What's the standard ending? So that's my standard ending here. I'm trying to do that now. So see you all next time, and watch out for my Sunday video. I have a really cool one coming out on Sunday. So it's super. I can't speak now. I'm speaking too much. Anyway, speak to you all later. Bye for now.